start the stuff and hit the buttons and make things work. And I forgot about that there. There we go. Now that's working. That's anyway, welcome to Discussing Tabletop as I deal with weird little hiccups. Nothing major. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're having a fun Saturday? Yes. It's the 23rd. Man. We've done the Saturday. Let's just chugging along, you know? But, I hope everybody is having a great Saturday and is ready to chat about some tabletop. I know I am.
Yeah, I'm a little tired.
I'm also tired. You know, not gonna lie.
Hopefully this doesn't end up being terrible.
You know, as long as I can keep up a little bit of energy, that's all that matters. That's the way I'm thinking about it. I have to keep up just enough energy. Just enough. Doesn't even be large. Just enough. Tiny.
Don't forget to post the docket in this chat.
That's true. I should throw the docket. It should be. Yes. Cool. I'll pin it. And just trying. So yeah, we got a bunch of topics to talk about, and I guess we can just dive into them. I guess that's the best place to start, is just hitting up on them, and we'll start with our eclectic group of Magic the Gathering related topics, which there are a few of. So, first off, Foundations came out. I don't know if there was going to be a lot to talk about for this one, but I did want to mention the basic... A core set? It's a core set. You know, they've called it a lot of things over the years, and they keep saying, like, well, we don't need to make any of these anymore. And then they're like, well, I guess we should make more of these because our, you know, our standard rotation in the game seems to be having some problems. Turns out, a core set.
I wonder if they just put more time into it.
There's a lot of questions about, like, you know, a lot of things that Wizards does. There's more things in this list to talk about. But, honestly, it's a good product. It's reprints and stuff. There's a lot of different things for it. They've got your simple boosters, bundles. They have a starter collection and a beginner box, which are two different things. Beginner box is really for beginners.
Guess I'll look it up myself.
A starter collection is for people that are a little bit more than a beginner, but you're like basically starting to collect cards. So, beginner box really isn't great for a collection. It's really just, I want to learn Magic. Starter collection is, I've learned Magic. I want to kind of advance into like deck building and stuff on my own. And they do have some jumpstart boosters, which seem pretty decent in comparison to some of the jumpstarts we've had in the past. These actually do seem Foundation jumpstart booster seems pretty good. So. Those are all pretty good products. Check them out if you're interested. It's seeming like good. You can check out the... I'll link the entire product page, because it will also have the card image gallery in there. So that's a good place you can see what cards are in there. Figure it out for yourself. I mean, we've circled also back to like the very simplistic star symbol, because that's happened before.
Star symbol?
Well, for the symbol on the cards, it's like a weird swirly star. And back in the day, there were these like starter mini set things that also had a star-like symbol. Now, granted, this has got like some things in the star, but it's basically it. As someone that knows about all that stuff, I'm like, that seems very familiar to those old days.
What is the point of the star? Like, what does that represent?
It's just starter? I think it represents, because it hints back at the like starter sets that were in the past. I think it's harkening back to that. I don't know. Other than that, what like I'm guessing the swirl represents like, I don't know, the planeswalking through the blind eternities or something. Who knows? But
I'm just like, because it's like, I do find it interesting. Some are gold, some are black, some are orange.
That's the rarity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to tell rarity on there. Magic starter 99 was it? I think had a star symbol. Yeah, it was just a star. So I think that was the last one that had starter 99. No, that's good. But hey,
Okay.
that's it's something from 1999 that has a very similar symbol, and I, as a old fogey, recognize it. That's all I can say about it. So that's interesting. It's there. It's something to shout out. And then there are two related articles to Magic that I wanted to shout out. That just gives some information that's very interesting to hear about. Apparently, there has been a alleged heist of Magic cards related to UPS. Apparently some workers, UPS workers, apparently allegedly pilfered $25,000 worth of Magic cards from a store in Idaho. So that's, I mean, like, this is like a weird little thing, but I thought it was an interesting story to chat about just for a minute. That we can't forget that Magic cards have some value, and that, you know, when things disappear or are mysterious, it could just be
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, things like the One Ring debacle kind of prove how, like, people can do this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I remember, like, around that time, didn't someone steal something from, like, a convention?
I think there was some convention with that too.
Yeah, I think they got the cards back, but I think they, like, tried. Some people tried or something like that. It was a while back. Yeah. Yep, they probably stole, $30 worth of laminated paper. I mean, $25,000
really
Magic cards.
I mean, those are both correct, unfortunately. The upcharge of Wizards is, you know, notorious for any of us that have sanity. So yeah, it's interesting that, like, there does seem to be a chunk of evidence for it. So again, I guess they still have to go to trial. So until they've either been proven guilty or innocent, it's alleged. It's guilty until or innocent until proven guilty.
Guilty until proven innocent.
I did almost do the opposite.
Your mastery of the English language never surprises me.
And we're also, the other news related to Magic I wanted to put out here for our little Magic news, the final bit here, is we're getting another Secret Lair Commander deck. I think this is the third or fourth actual full Commander deck we've gotten through Secret Lairs. And, I mean, this one seems at least an interesting concept. I don't know how good it's going to be. I don't know how good the cards are going to be. But it does say that it's supposed to be... It's basically going to be a deck that's going to involve combo pieces and special win conditions, it seems. I can basically point out Felidar Sovereign is one of those, because it's if you have a certain amount of life, you win the game Felidar Sovereign. So, yeah, that's instantaneously, I'm like, alternate win conditions are involved in here.
Why is the picture of a bunch of raccoon characters?
That, I'm really not sure of. Let me take a look at that. I think they're supposed to be Tanuki.
Fair. That's actually probably true. I'm just not sure.
Why'd they have Tanuki on the 20 Ways to Win Secret Lair Commander deck? Someone thought that would be a great connection between those two things. Tanuki! They find other ways to win. Doesn't sound great for the poor Tanuki. I mean, you know, we go by the legends.
Is that a
mythological creature?
Hold on. I feel like one of them is from... I need to check something. Give me 1 second. I'll
One
get
of them-
back to you.
Yeah, like one of them looks like a tanuki with like a branch tied to its head. Another one's like a different kind of animated things with barrels.
The one on the far left, I want to check to see, because it reminds me of something similar in Pathfinder, so I'm like, is that Photoshop from a Pathfinder?
Oh, you're right! Let me take a look. No, it is a little different. I've seen that image before.
Yeah, I've seen the image before, too. Actually, wait, can I do...
I went over to the image quickly. It's that's a traditional, more traditional Tanuki image, so I think it just fits a little bit. But,
Yeah.
Still, nonetheless, interesting
Oh,
product.
okay. I think it is from a Magic the Gathering card, because it was apparently used in other Magic related. I did a Google search and I saw it in like another Magic post.
Gotcha.
So it must be on a Magic the Gathering card.
Makes sense then that they're reusing some art. Though some of that art in there I do not recognize from being used for Magic. Like the one that's the first one, if you're going to be right, like the little animated one. I don't recognize that one, but doesn't mean it couldn't have been on like a promo or special card.
Yeah. No, I think, well, yeah. Yeah, so it just has a Pathfinder look to it, which is why I was very confused.
I understand. We do have that display. So we have a preview. Moving on to our next kind of group with some D&D news. We do have a base preview of some of the D&D VTT that they've kind of released. Some basic stuff when it comes to encounters and things like that and management. I mean, at most this article gives like, this is how you do stuff in very simplistic terms, but I gotta be honest, managing a VTT, like, there's a lot more than just this level of stuff. This is very simplified, but it's not necessarily bad to simplify it this much. It does give you an idea of how everything works. And it looks like... I'm not gonna lie, nothing from this appearance here shows off anything, but I think this is the D&D Beyond's maps VTT, not the new.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like looking through these. I mean,
I think they're going to have multiple levels of VTT, which is an interesting concept too. They're gonna have, you can have this base one, or you can pay for the super premium exotic one that we've been working on forever.
You mean what Roll20 does?
Roll20 doesn't do anything that close, unfortunately. It's just Roll20.
They have different tiers.
I guess they go different tiers.
If you actually use like the background stuff like I do, like I actually will edit sheets and do like the add-ins. I forget what they're called. Plugins? No, or something like that. Anyway, and I use a lot of that stuff. I think they're all very nice, and so I pay for it. Granted, I got so frustrated with Roll20 that I'm like, maybe I'll try Foundry. So we'll see how much longer I subscribe. It's still honestly easier to get people probably on Roll20, so I probably wouldn't push it. But
there's no perfect VTT. It's just kind of whatever you what fills the jobs you need done and what you're most confident.
The VTT that is the easiest to program and edit, in my opinion, is the best one, because then you can do whatever the frick you want.
Well, I mean, that's very helpful for you, but I don't do either of those things very much. I keep things very simple, so that's why it's sort of like, well, that doesn't really help me. I just need to be able to set basic things up.
Yeah.
So, I'm very glad that they're at least putting out some basic things here for working on VTTs. It's basic information that really is on the DM side more than the player side, and I think that's good too, because as much as I can say, you can use a VTT, it does have a learning curve in getting some information out there.
Every VTT has a learning curve. That's why it took me years to, even though I bought Foundry, like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, it took me getting really frustrated at Roll20 to finally literally start learning it. Because I'm just like, I don't have to learn a new thing, but I'm just like, I hate this so much. I'm so tired of this always giving me so much trouble to do anything.
Alright.
To be fair, I'd probably never want to use this, mainly because I'm not going to play only D&D.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, too, is if you're really playing a lot of D&D, especially the new, because I think that's what they're pushing for, would be best for their system at this point in time, is 5.5, so it is kind of like this weird cut off of everything, so...
Yeah, cause I think even doing something for just one system is very problematic, because how are you going to handle homebrew if you can't, like, change things? Like, that's the thing about Roll20 is that you can, because of the way it works, or a lot of these ones that do general stuff, because of the way it works, there are ways to do other things. There's ways to homebrew. Like, if I wanted to edit a sheet, I could. If I wanted to, just completely change a rule, I could. But with this, what are you going to do? It's probably they're going to be tied to the core rules because they expect you to use the core rules.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm nervous about something like this, because I'm just like, how useful will it be if you can't? If it's going, how closely is it going to be tied to D&D? And if it's tied too closely, is it going to be worth it?
And this VTT they're showing off here that you can just get into, which isn't their bigger VTT they're working on, or whatever experience they're working on in the background. This here, it doesn't really look much different to me than Roll20. Maybe it has some tricks or tips in it that I would have to deal with it to find out those tips and tricks. But it's basically, it's like, we're giving you Roll20, but it's only D&D. Now, granted, it is also connected to D&D Beyond, so a lot of people do have characters and stuff on D&D Beyond, so there is an advantage on that case if your people are using that a lot.
If you are someone who plays 99.9% D&D, honestly, it could be very, very good and very useful.
Yeah.
Honestly, it'll probably function better than Roll20.
So speak of D&D, we do have a couple more things related to this, because Hasbro is no longer going to finance any movies. They've basically decided they're out of the movie business. Apparently, which, I mean, Honor Amongst Thieves, I knew why it underperformed. There was, like, a lot of stuff going on at that point in time that wasn't going to be helping for it. That was the OGL debacle time period, which probably didn't help it very much. Which, I mean, like the movie, but not enough people saw it. I also don't know what their performance was supposed to be. And then Transformers 1 apparently underperformed too, which... I heard good things about that one too, but apparently it underperformed.
All the Transformers movies have been just action flicks, which are fine, from what I understand.
Well, this one was like an animated one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was part of that string of... I hadn't heard anything about it, so I just assumed.
It came out this year. It was kind of a interesting prequel take that was... I'm going to tell you, it was a little divisive in the way they did it at first, but it seems like most people that saw it were like, okay, we like the way that the story... Like, the way it was presented in a lot of advertising was off-putting to long-term fans, but when people would actually watch it, they would see it's kind of really... I felt like the consensus was about it when we discussed it.
I still need to watch Honor Among Thieves. I just
I
haven't
got
gotten around to it.
I haven't finished it. I started it, and then I got interrupted, so I probably recently watched it at this point in time, because it's been, like, months since I started it, and, like, things happen, and I just stopped watching it. I probably just have to restart at some point and sit down. It's just gotta find that 2-hour block-ish.
Yep.
To do it.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm starting to kind of... I don't think Chris Cox knows what he's talking about half the time now. It's kind of like that thing where it's just like, he's making these big statements, but I'm just like...
Yeah. Well, apparently related to this, which I will give this other article.
Well, no, it says, we're going to start focusing more on video games. And I'm just like... So basically, 2 movies do underperform in a way that's a little detrimental, and then 1 video game does great, and you're like, okay, we'll put all the money in that basket. I'm just like, really?
I'm going to tell you, I remember the other year, there was that D&D video game that was like it wasn't even like Diablo-like, it was kind of, with starring Brits. That was kind of awful. Like, I'm telling you, they have had very poor success, and then Baldur's Gate 3. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Your video game stuff might not be well. And the thing is, they also are developing another one that they've now kind of announced that they're working on something. We don't know what it is, but they said they're going to be working on it. So they've one release to... They've 1 to 2 releases, like, next year. Not including third-party ones that would be licensed.
It's just very nerve-wracking when it's... Yeah, hi, Momo. It's just very nerve-wracking when a CEO basically... Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I have a little, like, exclamation point on the little signal bars on Discord, and that's, like, a little weird.
Actually,
but it's, like, fine.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, but it really makes me nervous when a CEO basically is jumping at the thing that does the best most recently, rather than like investing in things. It's very concerning.
Yeah, no. I think
it's like all of Chris Cox's decisions have been like basically spur of the moment.
Yeah, and you know,
ooh shiny.
And I want to know what it means to be underperforming for Honor Among Thieves and Transformer Mode. If they still earned money, Like, I don't know.
Like, Transformer 1 was an absolute flop. It did not make anything.
That's kind of sad to hear, because, like...
no one went to see it. It was so poorly marketed, no one went to see it.
That's the marketing.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't know it existed until we talked about it just now.
So, and again, like, one amazing movie.
I assumed it was one of the live action.
That's what I heard about. Yeah, that's what I heard about. It was amazing.
Fucking absolutely amazing. Probably the best Transformers movie since, like, the classic ones, right? I do know that the D&D movie didn't make a lot of money on theaters, but it made a decent chunk on streaming. Unfortunately, you don't make a lot of money on streaming.
Yeah.
So, the writing was on the wall for that one.
I mean, the D&D movie came out during the OGL debacle, so that kind of probably didn't help on the core audience that would support it, and maybe drive
wasn't marketed.
Yeah, they're very bad at marketing. And now they're all in on video games. Hey, Baldur's Gate 2
doesn't surprise me.
But again, I was talking about how, like, that was... I don't even remember what it was called. That terrible kind of semi-Diablo-ish... I don't even know if it's Diablo-ish, but, like, fighting...
Are you talking about this super cool, newest Dark Alliance game that was ass?
It might have been a Dark Alliance game.
That one was terrible.
Year.
Yeah, okay, so... Transformers 1... basically didn't make its budget back.
Yeah.
Honor Among Thieves did, but not
it
by
didn't
a
make
lot,
it made its back, but then it probably didn't make its marketing budget back.
I mean, it's sad.
You got to combine the both, sadly.
Yeah, when you see like
well, most things don't list the marketing budget.
No,
so it's hard to tell.
You're never really supposed to know how much they spend on marketing. Usually, it's a lot.
And again, like when Transformers 1 came out, the commercials for it weren't really good, I didn't think. You know, it took me until, like, hearing from people later on and being like, no, the commercials were awful. This is, like, the movie, you know, and this is why it's good.
Transformer 1, like, might be unironically one of my favorite movies.
It's just...
No, I'm gonna be honest, I did not know it existed until this
a lot of people
mentioned it. I just kind of assumed it was one of the live-action ones.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know things.
Again,
it sucks.
It makes sense that you would assume it was one of the live-action ones because that's what we're used to. And again, with a lack of marketing
lately. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with their video games.
I'll spoil it. The video games won't make as much money as Baldur's Gate 3 did, and they'll be like, we're not doing video games anymore.
So apparently,
it's literally gonna be So I know that's what's gonna happen. It just pisses me off because it's like Hasbro, like Chris Cox, as I said, he's just jumping at the shiniest thing right now, and it's literally the worst way to do.
Hasbro's publicly traded, right?
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense why they're doing this.
Yeah, publicly traded ones are very cheap.
Well, companies that go public kind of go to shit.
Yes.
It's a mixed bag.
Hasbro also just sucks and has always sucked.
It has. Well, yeah. Honestly, there's been a like. I feel like they've always had like a slightly downhill slope, but I feel like since Chris Cox has come, it's dropped.
It's gotten significantly worse, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
when did
guess
Chris
who's...
Cox? Yeah.
Within a second. Guess who's feuding with Wizards of the Coast? If you guessed Elon Musk,
I
you'd
did
be
see
right.
This. It was very funny. When two of the worst people you know are fighting.
Apparently, because effectively now, in terms of nowadays, some of the things that Gary Gygax did back in the 50 years ago could be considered very not PR. You know,
Yeah.
it probably wasn't so bad back then. Some of it might have been actually, but
Some of it was.
Some of it was. You know, that's why I'm not like defending it necessarily. But you know, there is a lot of like things have changed nowadays. So when you look at it from 50 years ago and talk about it, you mention like, hey, you know, this is the way things were. Apparently, that pisses off Elon Musk. It sounds like from this entire
well,
thing.
No, okay,
when you
so
learn
let
about
me-
Elon Musk, he does this for like attention a lot of the times.
Yes. Okay. I read through this article because I was curious about it when I saw it posted here.
Mhm.
So, here's basically what happened. This I don't even know. Like, so this guy Grums or whatever on X was like,
Ah, this
hey,
cool asshole.
yeah, and he was
Fuck
all
that
like,
guy.
oh, Gygax and other like, oh, they're just erasing how bad Gygax was at the time in the new making of the D&D book.
Oh.
And
So
then
someone was
Elon Musk
going
basically
for the
says,
extreme.
This is
Yeah, and then
literally a
Elon-
nothing story.
Oh my
and then
God.
Elon Musk was basically like, you don't badmouth.
He does this all the time.
The guy who made the greatest game ever.
Elon Musk is not a serious person. He is.
So that's what happened. Basically, that's literally all that happened.
Elon Musk is what happens if Reddit was a human being.
Oh my God, that's correct. This is a statement for the ages.
And also, you know, owned an apartheid emerald mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, one guy didn't like that they kind of gave some slight justifications for this is how things were a little bit more at the time, and then
It snowballed
guy said
into Musk
and then
getting
one guy was
involved.
all like, oh, you're treating this like it's a good thing, or you're erasing it, or
It's
blah, blah, blah.
basically a bunch of nothing. Anyways, that
It
book's
is.
really good. If you can get it cheap, it's actually like a really good book.
Interesting.
I
Maybe
do
I'll-
own it.
it's on
It is usually $100. I believe it's on sale for like 50 currently on Amazon. I saw it's for a hardback book is very good.
See if it's on Audible. If it's not, then I'm not.
I don't know if it has an audiobook component. It might actually,
So
but it's actually a very good book.
there is one. That's cool.
I have a reading disorder, and it takes me way too long. to
Absolutely
read
understandable.
actual things.
There's one last bit of D&D news to finish off today, and it's probably a more positive one, and it's that Roll20's
Nope,
teaming
not
up with
audio.
D&D
Not
to
audio.
run a contest for building a bastion. They're using the rules from the new book.
Hey,
Use them and win a prize. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie. This is there's very good uses for it, but this is my I feel like this is the best use. I think we've talked about the bastions, how it's like it's fine, you know.
bastions are neat.
It's neat. It's you know, it's interesting that it's there, but it's very. I do find it very funny that you know we're getting a contest for it. I guess it's promoting it more. I assume you know.
It's promoting Bastion. It's also promoting the fact that Roll20 and Dungeon Scroll are like a pair now.
Yeah, that's what they're more promoting.
Dungeon Scroll is a very good dungeon building tool.
Yep. So yeah. So big old.
I actually, speaking of good dungeon making tools, I was trying Worldographer. I'm not a big fan of it, honestly. It's a little
Understandable.
complicated to import your own stuff. That's honestly the hardest part, is you have to literally name each file of the appropriate thing for it to understand what it is. And it's the worst.
Ooh.
However, I've now found Tiled, and I'm very happy with it. The only downside is you have to put it into tile sheets, but after that, it's not bad. It's honestly not hard to do, though. It's a lot easier to do than rename every file.
So that ends us for our D&D news for today. I just threw them all together as running issues, obviously.
Casually checking to see if it's like a slow day or not.
It's an okay day.
Okay.
I mean, we
'Cause
have.
there's something I could talk about to fill time if we need it.
We'll see. We'll see. There's a Shin Megami Tensei.
I know that game.
I think we may have talked about it when it was like
it's like
in
super old.
Kickstarter. But
and they're,
apparently,
like remaking it.
yeah, yeah. So Lionswing Publishing with Atlas is getting a localized digital edition of the game with pre-orders for physical release. I assume this means that probably was pretty much just Japanese only. I'm going to assume.
Yeah, it's for a Japanese only game.
And so we're finally getting it here.
Shin Megami Tensei is like tied to the Persona games, right?
Persona's an alternate
Yes.
universe of Shin Megami Tensei.
Got it.
Yeah.
I knew it was something
There
like that.
is a timeline chart you can look up to see how stupid it is. Yeah. It's rough. And honestly, most of the Shin Megami Tensei games are bad.
Fair.
And the Persona ones are kind of the only good ones.
I mean, now they have
in my humble opinion.
the whatever the new one is, which is which is basically a little bit of Shin Megami Tensei, a little bit of Persona, but without the high school stuff.
Thank God. Honestly, that is holding Persona back for me, is the fact that I have to play a teenager.
I can't remember what's called the.
It's metaphor something. I know it because they spelled it wrong on the Game Awards website, and it was really funny.
Oh God,
it was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, yep. Got pre-orders for the new edition. It's
Woo.
something to check out.
I mean, hey, you could finally play your SMT games, and you could run a role-playing game where you fight Hitler, because I'm pretty sure that happens in one of them.
Yep.
I think it's actually a Persona game that happens
in. Oh, now here's the question: can you play Persona game Shin Megami Tensei?
Well, maybe. I think one of the top, probably. Honestly, I haven't played most.
I do not know enough about either of those to actually
know
if that's possible.
The only Persona game I've really played is 3.
Yeah, I haven't played. I did play one. I played 1 on the PlayStation.
I think that's the one where you fight Hitler.
I didn't get that far.
Yeah, I think that is the one where Hitler's the final boss.
I think it was Persona 1. I think it was the first one on PlayStation.
It is Persona 1. Hitler's the villain. Oh, God.
Yeah, I didn't get that far.
He's also in Persona 2, apparently. Oh, no, it's just Persona 2 is where Hitler's the final boss. Okay.
Yeah, I was playing 1. And I just remember...
I don't know anything about Persona 1.
I just remember going into, random dungeons or something and trying to level up and stuff. I don't even remember the plot. It's old.
The plots are very incomprehensible.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those, from what I understand, a lot of those games are you have to play it 6 times in order to barely understand the plot.
Persona 3 is my favorite, because in Persona 3 you shoot yourself to activate your powers.
Yeah, I remember that.
Good times.
It's led to a lot of really good memes with the recent Buckshot Roulette game.
Yes. I can see that. So, Modifius is publishing something for us. I mean, they're bringing us something, because I think it's technically from something else. Wilderfeast. We might have talked about this when it was up on Kickstarter, but they're now officially publishing it. This does seem a little familiar. I might have just meant it in the other thing. But it's, post-apocalyptic supercontinent where food is magic, and populated by monsters, giant kaiju, creatures. It feels like a little bit of Dungeon Meshi.
Great anime.
Yeah, it feels a little bit of that, or Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter does have the whole cooking thing to it.
So kind of in that wheelhouse.
Yeah,
I feel like.
I mean, yeah. Monster Hunter food is a big part of it. You're always upgrading your.
I think it's more of a thing in Worlds is when it started becoming more of the cooking became more of a thing.
It's always been a
the
thing
cat
where
chef.
It's always been a thing. There's always been a cat chef. Yeah, I've
only played Worlds.
I've played Monster Hunter since 3, although I haven't actually played Worlds yet.
Worlds is long.
Yeah. But I mean, I just don't have the time. Really, I mean, that's really what it is. I don't have the time.
Yeah, it's a really
Monster
long
Hunter is
game.
a very time sink game.
Man, Wilds looks cool. I'm not gonna have time to play that.
Wait, no, I have played Worlds. I haven't played Wilds.
Wilds isn't out yet.
Wilds is the new one.
Wilds is out in
Wilds
February.
is coming out soon.
And I'm just man, this game looks gorgeous. Anyway. I'm not gonna have time to play this.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty much it. I own the newest ones. I just haven't played them. So I'm like, oh, I should play this at some point. Anyway, but yeah, no, you basically you've always had cooking in Monster Hunter, where it's You've always had to upgrade your chef with better ingredients.
Yeah, I've never. I'm not a. I'm not a weeb game player, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's really into Monster Hunter.
I also have several friends that are like, hey, play more of this. I'm like, no. I got my one weeb game in Final Fantasy. I guess two with Yakuza, but
these are
Yakuza's
really
a
cool,
little
like
different.
tree dinosaur things. I like them. They're very cool design.
Yeah, there's really cool designs and stuff. It seems neat. It's pre-order for the physical book. I think you can maybe get the PDF edition.
I imagine they sell the PDF as well for pre-order.
Honestly, this
well,
is
because
a
it's
book
not something. It's something they're publishing and not creating a Megami too.
Let's see. I think this one.
Because the image I found was for the quick start on Drive-Thru RPG, and it might be over on the Drive-Thru RPG for the
Yeah, they might have the PDF on that one.
Yeah, and just the physical stuff might be going through Momo.
A PDF surely exists.
Yeah. But again, because when I was looking for a good reference image to show down here, I found the quick start that was over on.
Yeah, you can get the
Drive-Thru.
you can get the PDF on the developer's website.
Okay. So yeah, so
$30.
So this is the physical stuff that's coming out now. So if you want a physical copy of the book, a lot of the little like accessories and stuff like that. Hey, maybe just putting it out. So.
Ooh.
Alright. I'm gonna use this one because out of the two sites, this one has less obnoxious ads that I found.
Oh,
It
yeah?
has less information because guess what's coming out? This one's a very interesting one. Honestly, it's interesting, but it's also weird. But it's also interesting. We're getting Shadowrun 1E back again.
Fair.
They're doing a special 30th anniversary reprinting of the original rulebook.
I would rather play that than whatever the current edition is.
I played 1E. It's...
Current edition's bad. Current edition's really
1E
bad.
is 1E, and it's got some problems. Like,
I have technically experienced 1E in the form of a really old Shadowrun video game.
okay. Just to explain to everybody, just something that's a little bit more different. Third edition's when they changed the way that it worked to be basically a hit system,
Yeah.
where you rolled all your d6s and you just had to get a number of successes. In the one before that, it was you only had to get one success, but the target number could grow. You still had d6s. Well, how did I get higher target numbers? I had to roll a 6 on a d6, and then I could re-roll it and get a higher number. So you could get target numbers of like 18. There were things that had target numbers of like 18. That's first and second edition. That's just a little bit of it, but there's a lot of things that made it very clunky that they did fix getting into like 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But it's still like, it is a classic. It's interesting enough. There's a lot of stuff about it. It is, 89? So yeah. It's the standard for cyberpunk fantasy. Cadence is giving us a reprinting of it. So I think it's interesting, you know?
It is. I like when those kind of things come out, like the reprints.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that I think is cool, very much cool from a historic perspective, but it's like another thing of like, if you want to try it out, I wouldn't say don't. Don't plan for long campaigns in it unless you really love the system. Because there are also some people that love like the original editions of D&D, and it's more developed than that, but still think of it that kind of way. It's still old. But yeah, so that's kind of cool. We're getting the Shadowrun back out. And our final of the main topics I had is from Green Running Publishing's in their Fantasy Age, they're doing a Technofantasy book.
Neat.
So yeah, that's very interesting that they are going the science fantasy route with a book for that to go with their Fantasy Age stuff. Giving a lot of information for that. Again, the age system's one that I think we've talked about a few times on the channel here. I still haven't played it, but they have a lot from Green Ronin and the different ones. I'm interested in what they're giving us for it, because again, like, Technofantasy, we get that in something like Pathfinder occasionally, just because of, like, the weird sciencey spaceships and stuff that did crash. Like, as soon as you get into stuff with Numeria and stuff with adventures from there, there's a little bit of that there. But I guess this might be for more pure science fantasy worlds or something then.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want, well, you talk about Pathfinder, but Starfinder is literally science fantasy.
Yeah.
It's starships and magic. There are different types of science fantasy, mostly because there are so many different types of sci-fi and fantasy, so you just merge them in weird ways and you get a lot of different things. So yeah, it's like there's I mean, Shadowrun, for example, is more of a dystopian. Actually, that's also very science fantasy. It's but it's more of the rather than Starfinder, which is
high
fantasy,
which is basically space fantasy. That's more cyberpunk fantasy. This one sounds to be going for the direction I want for their kind of idea of a setting would be kind of post-apocalyptic, like magic civilization falls,
pretty
technological
typical.
magic. So now magic and this technology mixing in the aftermath of, the great civilization is formed. So I mean that is a typical one we see it occasionally, but it's an interesting one. I thought of something that that perfectly fits that, and it as soon as we talked about it, it came to mind. It's the can't remember its name exactly. It's the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I saw it on Boomerang with the guy with the lightning sword.
I'm
it's like
blanking.
Thundar the Barbarian?
Just no idea.
No clue what you're talking about.
Oh my god, I did remember. It was on Boomerang. Yes, it's Thundar the Barbarian, which is in a post-apocalyptic world from our world, where it had some extra technology and it has magic and it's weird, and that's what I'm just thinking. And it made me think of that, and I don't know why it made me think of that. Thanks,
Fair.
Boomerang.
Fair and understandable.
Man, sometimes things come to your mind that you forget about for years, and it's just weird.
Happens.
Anyway, if you're interested in Technofantasy, you can get it on the online store for Green Room Press, or they do have it up, I'm assuming, the PDF and sheet. You can check out the stuff for the Fantasy Age system. Guess if we don't have anything else, we can move on to our deeper discussion topic. I don't know if
do that.
Yeah.
I have a book I bought that I could talk about, but I don't think either of you are that interested in it.
Kind of book was it?
It's a rulebook for a tabletop game. It's the rulebook for Wrath and Glory, which is the current Warhammer 40k role-playing system.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead and talk about that.
As they've kind of condensed, they've condensed all of the themes of the OG really terrible Warhammer 40k role-playing games into one book. And it's really nice because it's no longer a D100 system because good lord, that was ass.
I didn't know their old one was a D100.
Their old ones were D100 systems.
Wow.
Their old ones. This is a side tangent. Dark Heresy is a game I've played. It's really bad. I don't recommend it. That's a game where you play psychers. Every time you cast a psychic power, you gotta roll on a table. If you roll too high, you roll on another table, and that table is full of things that instantly kill you. So you could be like, I cast this low-level spell. Oops, I rolled 100 on my D100. Oops, I rolled 100 on that. I'm dead.
Is it just Stars Without Numbers? Space travel?
Kinda, but there.
Wait,
it's maybe the crunchiest game.
You own this book?
The OG 40k role-playing games are like the crunchiest things in existence.
Yeah, no, D100 systems are...
Never played Rogue Trader, the video game. It's a much better way to experience Rogue Trader, the TTRPG.
The problem with D100 games is our human brains don't like them.
I guess I can understand that with the
so I'm gonna link it.
Well, it's more that when you see a 90% chance of something and you fail twice in a row, your brain hates it because of the way this is still 1 in 10. It's still totally doable.
This link should work.
But your brain just hates it. There's a whole study I saw on this. It's like why percentile systems.
D100 suck. I hate D100 systems. This is not a D100 system. This is a D6 dice pool system, which is much more fun. and way less swingy than a D100. So this is entirely like an XP point buy system. You literally like they give like here's archetypes you could take, but you could also just be like here's the starting amount of XP you get. Here's all of the stuff you could be whatever your heart desires in the world of 40K. You know, if you want to just be like Bob from the farm planet, you can be him and you can go on space adventures and probably die. Because it's 40K, and if you're a human, you're not living very long.
Yeah.
If you're just an adorable ass human, you're dead in 15 hours. That's the life expectancy.
For whatever reason, my Wrath and Glory on my computer was broken, or was
Weird. I did post a
corrupted.
Dropbox link to the one I purchased. This is the current printing. I think it's the 3rd edition of it, which has a lot of. Also, the art in this book is incredible.
I mean, the Wrath and Glory rulebook I'm looking at is version 2.1.
Yeah, I think this is the newest. It's hard to tell because they don't just dead ass say what it. This is edition 3 of the book. But this is the current printing. The art is incredible. The art in this is so good.
I'll put the link from Cubicle 7.
That's for purchasing it. It's pretty affordable. I think it was like $30 for the PDF, which is pretty typical. But yeah, it's like a D6 dice pool system, which is pretty nice. The thing I love about this rulebook is one, it's laid out in the logical order of how you would build a character, which is really helpful. I wish more books did that. But also, it'll explain a rule. Like for the dice rules, here's what all dice do. It'll explain in a block of text, and then on that same page, it has a very nice like infographic of those rules, so you can visualize it in like art form.
That's nice.
So you're not just looking at a block of text and being like, ugh.
It's things.
Those are words. But
the age-old, this is things and stuff. I have learned it.
Yeah,
words.
it is things and stuff.
They use like multiple D6 as their system.
Yeah, so it's a like you have your attribute and then your skill. You take the number of your attribute and the number of your skill, add them together. That's your dice pool, and you roll that amount of dice for the check.
It's very Shadowrun in that case.
Yeah, it's like it's pretty typical. Like I think is VTM a little similar to that? I don't know. I've never played VTM.
VTM is World of Darkness games are like that. They're D10s, but it is a similar system.
Yeah, it just uses D6s.
Yeah.
You can play pretty much anything in this. Like they have rules for chaos. I would never run a chaos game just because chaos is a little bit like, man, if you thought D&D players could get up to some bad things, just wait until your players are like, I want to be a Night Lord and I want to flay people. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
Because my Primarch hated me and I'm an edgy boy.
I'm edgy.
There's a lot of really good flavor in this book.
I think this is the same book I have.
One of the interesting things, they do still have like a psychic peril table. However, it's a little more reined in and controlled. You roll a D66. So you roll 2 D6s. But
I always hate that. Okay, Traveler does the same thing where it's like D66, and like, but it like doesn't have all the things because it's like it's weird. I hate that.
The reason
like
they do it in this is if you take higher risks, you add +10 to your roll. So if you're just being like, I cast standard ability for Psyker, you just roll a D66. You might get something neutral. You might get something good. Nothing on the 1 through 66 will kill you. After 66 starts hitting like, oh, you're stunned for X amount of rounds. Oh, you've opened a portal to the rift and now there's demons pouring out of it. Oh, you just summoned a greater demon by accident.
Pleasant.
Which is really bad.
Oops, greater demon.
Yeah, they're pretty rough. They're not great. But you have your archetypes. I think this book only has the only Xenos in this book, I think, are orcs and Eldari, which are space elves, aka the thing Games Workshop hates the most. Even though I think they just got a new mini line, which is kind of nice. Because God, it's been years. But you can something else I like about this. You could build a background. Your background actually gives you shit, unlike most games where it's like, hey, you don't get any mechanical bonus from this. And
I
also
feel
the
like that's
backgrounds
changing
are
a
a little
lot.
bit funny.
A lot more recently are doing like actual.
Yeah, it is nice. You play an orc in this, which makes me happy because orcs are the best. I love the orc abilities, like for their background. The orc names are, you can just be an orc boy. That's your basic, or you can orc commando or an orc knob. Those are your tiers of orcs. You have your origin of like, what flavor of I want to fight people are you?
What was it? Their gods were, one was cutting and brutality.
Oh yeah,
brutality
it's Mork and Gork. I think Gork is cunning but brutal, and Mork is brutal but cunning.
That's a thing.
Those gods also, I believe, exist in Fantasy Warhammer.
Yeah.
Because they kind of the same world, a little bit.
So, good times.
Yeah, you know, you could play an Eldari and just call everyone a slur because that's what they do, and they suck.
Yep. Gurita or whatever it is.
There's that, and then there's Monkai, because you can't call a human a monkey. That's kind of fucked up.
Wow.
But one of my favorite things for Guard, because you can just play an Imperium Guard, which is hilarious. But one of the accomplishments is really good lore accurate. Accomplishment, 15 plus hours. You've exceeded the usual life expectancy for a frontline trooper despite the horrors of war. You're practically a veteran.
15 plus hours.
There's a really good there's a really good meme where there's a guard who's like, "You stole my kill." He's like, "You stole my kill," and he's saying this to Space Marine, and the Space Marine's like, "How many hours have you survived?" And he's like, 14 hours and 59 minutes, and the Space Marine just starts counting down.
God.
But I highly recommend this, especially because one, it's 40K. We don't get a lot of 40K role-playing stuff anymore.
That's true. Most of the time I've heard about...
Even like Warhammer Fantasy, I think this company did one for Fantasy as well.
I think we talked about it like last
year. Or they're doing one.
Yeah.
Because Warhammer is... Games Workshop hates money. They really hate making money. So they like do the opposite of what a company would do to make money, and it's like, all right, we're gonna give our licenses out to like a bunch of stuff, but also it's gonna be shit, and we're not gonna make things people actually want.
I mean, they've gotten lucky with some things, but yeah.
It's like every video game is like a 50-50 if it's the worst thing you've ever played or like the best thing you've ever played.
Yes.
The books are usually like average to good. There are some pretty bad ones. And then they don't do TV shows because fucking they don't want to. I guess they make so much money off of TV shows.
Cubicle 7 made a 4th edition rulebook for Warhammer Fantasy in 2018.
Oh, nice. I thought they did one. Which is nice because I do know Fantasy is getting popular again. I personally don't really know anything about Fantasy other than from my like looking from the outside in, it seems like a slightly more serious setting that makes an absolute joke of itself half the time. Like it does not take itself seriously at all. Where 40K is like some of the goofiest shit you've seen, but it's played so seriously and straight faced. That's just like, all right, man.
You know, I keep in mind the only thing I know about the Fantasy is Vermintide. It's technically part of it.
I do know Dwarfs in Fantasy have a book of grudges where they just, it's like a super ancient book that has every grudge that they've ever held against specific people. And there's some elf in there that has like 700 grudges against him.
Sounds about right.
There's a guy who has a grudge against him because he just said Dwarven ale is bad, lol. And they're like, this grudge can be removed if he admits that Dwarven ale is superior.
That's good.
One of the reasons I like Warhammer stuff, it's a great source for like interesting items.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
They have so many weapons, weapon upgrades, and ammunition types, armor. It's just so much. Like they have so much.
It's a lot. Like if you just look at like the artifacts of Warhammer, you will get some good inspiration.
Okay, they have orc equipment, and one of them is just
Yeah,
mech tools. And,
I love orcs.
Dox tools.
The
Ammo
snaz gun is a very common orc weapon. It's just a bunch of guns taped together, and it somehow works.
What's the
orcs and their shooters?
Yeah, teleporting a tiny man through the
God,
warp.
that's one of the grot weapons. They just shoot a grot and they teleport into someone.
And it's gone crazy because it went through the wall.
I love orcs in tabletop because I don't know if they have it in 10th edition, but there used to be a rule where if you rolled like a 1 on an orc, your gun would like explode and do damage to you. God, Warhammer's great.
It's got some good.
I mean, if you ever want to run a Warhammer game, I actually would be down to play.
Yeah, Warhammer 40k is one of my favorite franchises. I think people should be very well aware of that because I love how dumb it is, and people are like, "Oh, it's super dark and gritty." No, it's the dumbest shit you ever read, my guy.
Yeah, no, I actually totally get that. It's so weird how much I know about Warhammer and how little I know about Warhammer.
Yeah, there's there's so much.
Like not having read any books or anything, but I've played like a dozen Warhammer video games. So it's like this weird thing where it's
you can
all
get like a pretty good idea just from the games.
I know. So it's like I got an idea of the setting, but like they reference things in these sometimes, and I'm like, I have no idea what that's supposed to be.
In Rogue Trader, I often took because I was just like, I want to play with just like an asshole because I'm a human, and humans suck in 40k. They're the bad guys. Fun fact: shouldn't be idolizing them. They suck.
Yeah.
I was like,
I mean,
there are so many decisions.
I mostly know that.
There's so many decisions I took in Rogue Trader that's like, oh, something's happened to the lower decks of the ships. In the indentured and the slaves are going mad, and I was just like, all right, Abelard, shoot the poor. It's time. Get rid of them. Oh, you're cold because our reactor is using too much energy and the heat's not on. Sorry, I'm just gonna shoot you. Stop complaining to me.
Nope. We'll pick up more in the next port.
If humanity has if the Imperium has one resource, it's human lives.
Yep.
You spend that resource.
Does in a lot of ways.
Sir, 10,000 of our crew are babbling incoherently and talking about demons after the warp jump. Another successful travel.
Yeah. I mean, they literally have like hive worlds with trillions of people on it.
It's real bad.
The idea, and there's like, it's just literally like several, the continents on the planet are just like mile high.
There's a planet literally just
cities
called Armageddon. It's one of my favorite planets because in the lore, if you get too close to like your hive walls, you will just hear artillery shells being fired outside because Armageddon is in a perpetual war against the orcs. Because orcs love fighting there so much that they are like make pilgrimages there just to fight there.
Nice orcs.
Yep.
Well, we do have a deeper discussion topic, and I thought it was an interesting one, and it's a variant on something we talked about previously. We talked about the usefulness of Session 0. What I want to talk about is when you don't have one, but you still kind of do. Skipping an actual Session 0 and kind of talking about how you would integrate that into your Session 1, to make it both zero and...
It usually doesn't go well.
Well, I mean, there are ways to do it, to basically have an introduction. Because the thing is, what we kind of defined a Session 0 as an introduction for your characters and stuff like that. And an introduction for characters could be coming together in Session 1. So would then Session 1 be Session 0 in a lot of ways? That's the kind of thing I'm saying. Like, you don't have, like, a more traditional session 0. You have this, like, beginning of things which kind of can function as it. And that's what I'm kind of, like, putting is here. What would we do? How would we go about that kind of thing? What would be the kind of plan for that?
You all wake up on a cart, having been arrested for crossing the border. That's your session 1. You can introduce yourselves, get you a really... I'm gonna stop this bit.
The Skyrim break does work with that in a way, though, too.
It does, though.
You all together.
Kind of funny.
You're all arrested in jail.
Like, it
cells, and
unironically
suddenly-
kind of works.
Yeah.
I have used it as a start before.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, I think we've
Yeah.
talked about, like, a session 0 as, like, an introduction, but, like, sometimes you do not need to necessarily role-play out, like,
No,
backstories
no.
of characters and stuff like that.
No, I wouldn't even consider that a session 0.
Session 0 to me is like
that's-
everyone's making their character together, and then like you
Yeah.
give like this is the expectations of said game.
Yeah.
Because I think that's, like, that can definitely be a session 0, like, doing all the kind of characters together to a degree, get the expectations of the game. I think that's kind of, like, stuff you can establish, but that's kind of like I feel like that's only, like, half of session 0, because it's also, like, I feel like the essence of it is getting the idea of where you're getting the characters coming together, too. That's a very important part of kind of establishing
Honestly,
the group in a lot of ways, which you can do in the game, though, too. But there's, like, this essence of, like, the beginning, which it's kind of hard when we divide it up between 0 and 1 sometimes.
here's my thought. The reason that part isn't necessary, the getting the group together, if you do the original make sure we're all on the same page in session 0, is like, then when you gather them in session 1, it shouldn't matter. Because they should all be on the same page.
I think for like a streamed game, something like that matters a little more.
Agreed. Yeah, like actually having worked together and how they met or how they're going to meet would be better for the smoothness of a stream game. But personally, there is kind of this expectation. Like, I mean, I've heard of people who even say you should have a session re-0 if you're introducing a new player. Where it's like you bring that player in and teach with everyone else. So I think session 0s are very important, and you should have them if possible.
Well, that's what I mean is the concept of a session 0, like, narratively speaking, sometimes that is very easy to do, sometimes it's not narratively. That's kind of what I mean is, like, that kind of bringing together, certainly you can do during a bit session. You could do that, like, you did say suggest something, that kind of re-0 session. That's something that, like, I hadn't thought about before, and that's actually a really good suggestion to kind of hear. And then it's sort of like integrating that into the story. It's kind of like an extra 0, but you have to kind of integrate it in so it's not necessarily a huge interruption to what's going on with the new player. There are, like, it's kind of muddled, and I think that's the kind of idea of what I'm kind of getting at here, is because it's so muddled, you do have to kind of go over with players and kind of figure out where everybody's standing, their characters, how the game is kind of going to be run, that kind of thing. But, like, I did character stuff with you, Momo, and Joe. I don't really consider that a session 0,
No, I wouldn't. This is us just kind of building our characters. I mean, it's a session pre-0, like it.
But because the nature of the game, we don't really need a true session 0 from that point on.
Well,
Because that's part of what would be in a 0.
to me, the building the characters is the session 0, because that's how I do session 0s.
Here's what I'm gonna say too. I think it's more just that this isn't necessarily. That was a session 0. It was one of probably several session 0s we're going to have, because we need a little bit more prep time for a stream game. I don't think, like, that's the thing. Session 0 is just, in my opinion, anything that happens before you actually start rolling dice and playing your characters.
Okay.
Like, I have no idea how my character, like,
that feels like that's a little broader definition than I put normally, but I can see that as being part of that entire thing,
Yeah. So, like, I consider that what we did a session 0. Will we have more? Probably, because we still have one more character we still have one more player we need. We still need to figure out how our characters will meet each other, because that is.
Oh, you won't have that. You'll have that. The thing is, it's very quick and simple in the game where you're going to be meeting each other. I already established it.
Okay.
You're all playing a guy.
You're all volunteering for a job, you know, and they're putting you together. That's basically it. You know, it's the Skyrim thing, except rather than going into jail, you're signing up for a job. You know, sort of like that. You're volunteering for a job. You're all being thrown together as like someone rudimentarily said, "You guys look like you folks look like you'd work together. You four work together." You know, there you go.
Okay. Okay.
And I think the dynamic of learning from that would be very interesting, because you're learning on the fly and in a very dangerous situation where you might have to learn to trust each other with your lives, you know, kind of thing. So I think this is better than what they did in Crimson Queen. Not gonna lie,
Crimson Queen was weird. Like, at least the one thing that was nice about it is at least we all had a vendetta, meaning we all were a little bit more like, it basically kind of forces you into a revenge bent, which is a lot easier to get along with. It's like, oh no, you want revenge. That's basically your motivation. And I think that's important for all your characters to have a similar motivation.
Yeah.
Like my character, that's why I'm gonna make my character's motivation. He wants to help the war effort.
Yeah. I think that
to start.
Yeah.
He has other motivations too, but it's good to have one in common. And that's again why I think a session 0 is important. You should establish what all your characters should be working towards. They can be working towards other things as well, but they can have different reasons for working towards that.
Yes. But again, that's like also like as part of the introduction to the game, that's kind of established. So that's kind of where I'm like, we will be having like character building things and probably talk about stuff, but would that be a very traditional, like, again, like, this is that odd thing of, like, I feel like this concept of a session 0, I didn't really ever do like that in a lot of games I've done. Like, we build characters together and maybe discuss characters a little bit, but it's sort of like a lot of that, like, beginnings, the motivations, kind of establishments was discussed with the DM, probably other people could be there, maybe, you know, kind of like discussed it in secret or something sometimes for this. Sometimes you got things that, you know, you kind of keep to yourself and stuff like that. But in general, like, I would remember we usually just build characters together and then start playing, you know, and we did that for a lot of years. But again, maybe knowing each other helps on that kind of thing, you know.
It 100% does.
And I think that's like, also a thing too. It depends on the kind of group you have too. If all your people know each other, you've played a lot of games together, you probably need less of a session 0, if any, or you can do kind of like what we would do is kind of make it part of our session 1 to establish things, you know.
I still think it's that's the thing is I always viewed session 0. That's the thing. Your characters meeting up if they meet up in session 1, then they meet up in session 1, but that doesn't necessarily make it a session 0. In my opinion, session 0 is everything before you start playing.
And again, I never thought of it that way, but that is a good way of thinking about it too. In a lot of ways, that extends the definition beyond kind of where I was looking in a lot of ways traditionally. But I'm like, okay, I can.
How do you not
that.
Do a session 0? I'm like, you should not do a session
but again,
0.
This is me not including some of that stuff that traditionally you're including in session 0 in my concept of. I'm like, okay, I can see that as being part of session 0. So maybe the title just shouldn't be like skipping session 0, skipping components of session 0. You know,
or just even skipping your characters' introductions to each other.
That could be too. Shorter.
That's weird.
Really what we're talking. Yeah.
I guess like it can work if you're like you all are in each other.
I mean, like, I assume even like the Skyrim back of the wagon, you like introduce each other, you know.
No, sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna play that one guy who runs away and gets killed immediately. Then my real character's gonna show up.
Like another character.
Well,
What if I'm
whatever
playing the
the-
guy who's got a gag in his mouth because you can
Oh,
shoot
yeah, that guy.
magic at it? It's the Stormcloak leader.
His fucking
Ulrich?
racist, McRacist face.
Yeah.
Racist. That's not incorrect.
I've literally never finished Skyrim in my entire life. Yet I own
have.
3 copies of it.
I have also finished this.
Bro, I don't understand how people do. I'm so bored.
I haven't finished one of the DLCs. That's what I didn't finish. I did all the others.
I finished the DLCs. I've done I have explored the hell out of Skyrim. I did every quest.
Mhm.
Maybe missing like 1 or 2 if like, you know, that are kind of in weird little places that maybe I missed, but
I took advantage of a lot of stuff in that game. I had my fun. I don't think I would go back.
Look,
to it.
I've mostly played Dark Elf, so my experience with Skyrim is being called a slur every time I go by a Nord.
Honestly, I also played a Dark Elf, so remember that.
Alright, jeez, calm down, buddy.
I mean, if you play anything but a Nord, you get slurred at. I mean, like
Yeah.
I've played Khajiits and Argonians and
Yeah. Oh, Nords.
see, the thing that I don't understand is that Khajiits aren't allowed in the cities because they are viewed as thieves, but then you playing Khajiit are just allowed in the city.
Because you have more power and stance.
Because you're the Born Dragon.
They're too afraid of your power.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hello, I am Born Dragon. I am superior to you. Nuke you with boost rolling and die.
Yeah, I mean, Dragonborn's scary enough now. Imagine Dragonborn high as fuck on skooma.
There's a
Uh.
meme about that in some point where it's just like this Dragonborn just running in like high on skooma wearing nothing but a loincloth and being like, wait, that was the Dragonborn?
Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Look, I think it comes down to it, like, certainly speaking, there are different aspects that people look at for the pre-sessions. Like, because it's also one of those things I kind of have to say is, like, if you are experiencing stuff as a group, you also might not need to make characters together.
Yeah,
You'd
I
be
think
like,
with
you
the
could say,
group
like,
I
oh,
run
I'm creating this, and then go
yeah,
create
like with
that.
the group I run with, you guys have all played it long enough for me to be like, all right, here's your character sheets, figure it out.
Yeah.
Don't
So-
talk to me
and
until you're
I-
done.
Yeah, and I have groups of friends who are like that, who I'm like that with, and it's just like, oh yeah, I know the kind of stuff you play, I know the kind of character you are, I'll work around it, you know.
So I think the depths of a so again, like, you still would maybe like ask them questions about like their character's backstory and stuff, and things like
Yeah.
that, and figure out
Yeah.
some basic information about them and where they're going with it. You will have the back and forth between you and the player, of course, but that's kind of not quite the same as, like, you're still doing that. You're doing it very individually, which I guess could be like individual session 0 kind of things, but I feel like it's that, again, the exact sitting down, maybe it's not the same thing. I don't know. But, again, the amount that you need, I think the familiarity between players is an important aspect to decide. The less familiarity they have, probably session 0 and more session 0 kind of related stuff, where they work
Absolutely.
together, kind of build characters together, learn more about what's going on with them, are more important than, too, for development. Like, I honestly was more on the lines of making sure everybody knew what was going on because we haven't done second edition together, as to why I wanted the kind of meeting together more than anything, But I feel like 3 of you, generally speaking, I would probably rely on to make characters on your own. And for the most part, I feel like the group I've got, because we went through, some games and stuff, would kind of have a general idea how things would work. I don't feel that's very bad there, too,
I personally would still be like, okay, well, we're gonna meet up, when we meet up for the first session, we'll spend a half an hour so you can introduce all your characters to each other. I would still do something like that normally, just so that way everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. And I think character introductions are usually pretty good for, like, getting in there. But Yeah. I think that it's like just I've been figuring out more details for how like, things work versus, like this course a stream game works very differently than in-person game and stuff like that. But certainly speaking, like if I'm meeting and I'm hanging out with, let's say like Joe and Blaze, since one of our other friends is running a game and it's the three of us, we'll have that point in time where we like give a description of your character, your name, that kind of thing, and some basic information, and that's always kind of going to happen. And it gives people an idea of what to play off of, and we kind of can read each other enough that we know how we're going to go with these characters and we kind of talk about them. But that's, familiarity. And I think that's, familiarity I think is the big thing of how much of a zero, like truly any, you need in a lot of ways. That kind of defines the zero, extended zero in a lot of ways, I should say. It defines it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would call session 0 basically running through everybody as they meet up, because like I know sometimes like I've done this and I've had friends who've done this where they'll basically go through each character and do them like and roll through them, and it's like, and then you run into and then you rewind and be like, okay, now this person's doing this, and then they run into you, and then okay, now we rewind to the next person. Is that what you're talking about? Is like a session 0 where they meet up when you originally think of it?
I've done plenty of games that have done stuff like that, and I would feel like that's kind of like the 0 section of a session I almost thought about, or like maybe even just defining like that session 0. I thought more traditionally was you bring your character. It's like we're post character building and stuff like that, and we're at the where did we meet. If we're not meeting in game, what am I doing to get up to here, kind of things like that, kind of reviewing that basic information to a degree, but talking about it as a group a lot of times, that establishment there, which can like, and again, especially in person, that oftentimes leads directly into the session, like something like a stream game, that session 0 is probably not going to be on stream, that kind of stuff. But, like, yes, in that would be like, okay, this is what's going on, we talk about it here. Now we begin the game proper, but we just were establishing this stuff, right at the beginning, and running into it right away.
Yeah, it really depends on where you're going. Yeah. Whether you're doing you all start together. If you do, then yeah, you should probably have a session where you all talk about how you got together and where you guys met.
Yeah.
If you are... But if you are running into each other for the first time in the game, like if it's literally just, okay, you 4 go off, have fun, then we'll deal with
it. Don't die.
Yeah.
Have fun, don't die.
I'm curious, will we actually go anywhere? Sorry, just a side tangent. Will we actually go anywhere outside of the land that we're starting in, like that country that we're starting in? Or is it going to be like all in that country?
The country's big. We'll be all in that country. Remember, the entire continent's the size of like South America.
I know.
So it's a pretty big nation you're in, and so there will be a lot of stuff in there.
Got it. So what I need to think about is probably also making you might also want to show me, I might also want to make a local country map for you as well. And then if there's that one big city, probably a city map as well.
Right now, I'm going to say major city maps and region maps aren't necessarily needed. If it comes to it, we can work on it.
Yeah. No, I know. There's. Yeah. We'll talk more later. I just was thinking about that. I'm just like, are we going to actually be outside this? So I'm like building this whole map, and I'm just like, how much of this are we actually going to need? Like, okay, it's just more of it's more just of a showpiece, and that is fine.
Yes, I think that's kind of where it is right now. Kind of give an idea of where everybody came from and the connections between various countries.
Yep.
Okay, so I kind of find it's been very interesting, kind of like zooming in on the exact definition of session 0s that we kind of are using here. Kind of maybe expanding a little bit from where I was going for it, and kind of in my thought patterns, and then kind of like discussing where you can kind of move things. And I kind of think it again comes down to familiarity and what kind of game you're running, what's going on in the game. These are questions that you have to ask about how much like you're doing before that point in time where the story really starts, you know, because I think that's when you really hit session 1, is like, you know, the bag comes off your head and you're in the cart, you know, that's the beginning of it. But, you know, like, the character creation for Skyrim is the session 0 you're doing through, and you establish a lot of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you do it.
I think, personally, that kind of part of session 0, where you're actually, like, deciding how your character's met, a lot more important if you're doing a one-shot or a short shot.
Yes. That I definitely agree with.
Because you want your characters to be cohesive and together for the reason of the... Yeah. I don't know. I like calling it a short shot just because I used to call it, like, an episodic adventure where it's like you got a few episodes. But then I'm like, it's not really that great because that implies that, like, that's the episode. So I just call them a short shot. Now,
well, that's a good name for it too. I do think it's a good name. That it's a kind of small series of sessions that add together the one adventure. Not meant to be long.
Yeah. So, but yeah, because like I'm just always like, there's one shots, then there's full campaigns. There's no like agreed upon middle definition that I know of, like where you only do like a few sessions. Never heard one, so I started calling them short shots.
Yeah, that's also another thing too. Game length is an important thing for determining like how much you have to kind of put together ahead of time.
That's true.
Yep. It's kind of weird in that the shorter the game, the more work you have to do before the game.
Yes. Before you start running, the more questions that need to be answered so you don't have to answer them in the game, and it makes it a lot quicker. And honestly speaking, not rolling that out in-game also does make that very quicker to just ask it there. So,
yeah. Now, for one-shots, there usually is a certain amount of suspension of consideration for that.
Yeah.
So, like, the short games are like, 3 to 5 sessions. It's like, okay, you should do, like, a session 0 with, like, a bit of prep, and you figure out how you met. If you're doing like a literal one-shot, it's just, come on, people, don't be disruptive. We're just getting this through. If it screws up, if people's, don't be a dick. We'll make it all work. And it's your job to make sure that we can actually complete this in a day or in a few hours.
Yep. Yep. Is there anything else we want to add to this at this point in time? Of the reformatting of the session 0, I guess we can call it. Maybe that's a better name of it. Reformatting session 0.
That works. Yeah. Because, you should always have that session 0 prep. There are ways around it, like we said, if you have a really tight-knit group of people who you work with a lot, but what page they'll be on. Yep. But if you need that you need to make sure everyone's on the same page, you must have that full session 0, where you make characters together, you talk through your campaign together, you let people ask questions.
Yep.
With other people listening.
Yeah. And game length, tone, those are also very important things to kind of question what you need to do. If you're doing something that, honestly speaking, could have a lot more darker tones of things that occurs, you might want to talk more about it, and kind of establish those kind of things and talk about it. While something that's very lighthearted, probably speaking, everybody's going to come at it very lighthearted. You usually don't have to worry as much, but again, might be also good just to chat about it. Kind of establish it. Anybody else add anything? Anybody want to add anything else to this?
I don't think I have anything else.
Okay. Our week in tabletop. Well, I guess I can start because I think last Saturday night is when I got a chance to first try out the. I think that was when we did it. Space. Ticket to Ride, which was a fan version on Tabletop Sim.
Ooh.
And it was not bad. It's very interesting. It delves into some extra rules. There's a technology kind of tree you put together. And got some interesting ideas. It's fun. It's an interesting extra complexity, but yeah. I think it was fun. I did that, and then I also did a little bit of next day. I think I did a little bit of Flux with Joe. It might have been Monday. I don't know. Did anybody do anything on Sunday or Monday?
Sunday, I played Warhammer with some friends again.
Ugh.
It was a fun time. My history with Warhammer Tabletop is tumultuous at best. I have loved some editions and hated others. Some editions are straight up bad, like 7th edition. I kind of like 10th edition. I think it's pretty neat. Don't think it's as good as the 8th edition. I feel like that's an uncommon opinion. However, orcs are still really fun. Necrons still really fun. And if you play Custodians, I feel bad for you because they gave you a terrible rulebook and your armies suck now. I'm sorry.
Rulebook, what's that? Why do you need a good one?
Dog, it's such a bad codex. But it was fun. We had a really fun time. Confident we're getting a lot of rules wrong because a lot of us haven't played fucking Warhammer in a decade at this point. Because 8th edition is super old at this point. Yeah, 8th edition's 2 years back. But yeah, it's nice to get back into it. I might buy some stuff, but I'm also moving soon, so I'm like, I don't really want to move more stuff.
Yeah. How about Monday? Have I do anything on Monday?
We did our little Fallout game where we fought a Deathclaw that River was like, man, this is going to be a hard fight. And then River met Cell, who finds how to break systems very, very easily in character creation. Because Cell has like DR nothing is sitting through my armor, lol, fuck you.
Yeah.
And the Deathclaw did like 2 damage, and that's it.
Thanks, Cell.
It's insane, the amount of armor this fucking dude has. It was a fun session. River is aping on Bethesda a lot by having us fight a Deathclaw at low level and having an NPC like, oh, there's no way you guys can fight this. You know, you don't have equipment for this. And then we bodied it because it's fucking Fallout. Kill anything with a fucking tin can. And it's fun. I'm pretty sure we're gonna go kill the current Elder of the Brother to Steel because he's a big racist jerk. So you know that's pretty cool, and we gotta go figure out why super mutants are existing.
Just a question.
Yeah, it's been fun. Fallout is it's both the best system Modiphius has made for combat and also kind of bad. It's still a little rough. They don't quite understand combat as well as they maybe should. It's wildly unbalanced.
Well,
I don't know why. I feel like, I've always felt like combat is the worst.
They really are the worst parts of Modiphius games.
Yes. It's functional in Star Trek. Let me put it that way.
I mean, the Fallout one is more fun than Star Trek's. It is actually a fundamentally playable thing.
I should actually go through and, since I have the book, look at the Star Trek 2.
Oh, the second edition. Yeah, I haven't checked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got May the 4th in 4 months, 5 months, 5 months.
6 months.
Combat in Fallout's a little weird because sometimes, you know, I deal like 5 damage dice, and then Cell punches a dude and does like 10 damage dice. I'm like, alright, I'll just not use my ammo.
Go ahead, Cell. Take care of it.
Just go punch that guy.
Yep. That'll be the Tuesday, I think.
It was a kind of chill game that I don't remember really what happened, other than talking. You guys have your goal, though. You're gonna go to another city and stop a cult.
We're gonna go stop a cult in another city.
We're gonna go beat up some cultists.
I think that was a good thing, because I think the big thing post everything that happened is I was a little kind of confused as to what was going
That's
on.
fair.
Because,
there was a lot of clarification that happened.
Yeah, we went from... We basically didn't actually fight the cult except that one place, which was a battle. Like, most of the cult here, we did not fight ourselves. Like, the place they were attacking fought it for us. So it's like, well, I guess we didn't really do our job.
So you actually did kind of the smart thing and took out the cult base before going to the tower? Because I was 100% like, you could just go to this tower now, and it would have been a bigger battle. But it's like, well, you've already kind of killed most of them. There's not much I can really have you fight here.
Yeah. That makes sense then. Whew.
It's kind of like when you when you kill the goblin camp in Act 1 before doing anything else, and there's just nothing on the map that's a problem anymore.
Yeah, he's like, well, we got rid of this. There's nothing left that's a problem. Great.
Yeah.
So, I think it was a good session in that case, that we kind of got an actual, like, direction now, a lot more.
Yeah. I know people were like, there was a lot of question like, where do we go from here? And I'm just like, you're not getting it. I'm not throwing you into the outer space yet. That's something you could do, but I'm only going to do it if everyone agrees to do it. Otherwise, I'm not prepping that shit yet. That would take so long.
Then we went and had our kind of character building stuff on Wednesday.
Yeah, I did in fact end up making a ferret.
I have to be very careful with this step on you.
Honestly, let's be real, I will actually need to be riding people to not be like slowing everyone down all the time, because like I have this land speed of 20.
You will probably be on like someone's shoulder, honestly, 99% of the time.
At level 5, I plan to get the thing that allows me to like stride twice once initiative starts, as long as I end my turn behind cover, just so I can jump off people and scurry away.
Yeah. I thought there were some interesting ideas there for the characters. I do like kind of where we're going with all the characters. I can work with it. Then last night we ended up playing. Me, Worm, and Joe played the space Ticket to Ride again. Well, Worm joined us this time. We enjoyed playing the game. We learned the important thing of your start can mean so much in that game.
Yeah, when Tantus started with because so the way it works is for Ticket to Ride you have like a rainbow train, which can be substituted for any other color. Well, in this you can use that to buy technology, and Tantus not only started with 2 of them, but also started with a card that allowed him to like trade to use like other cards as them, and he was just able to buy a bunch of technology right away, which gave him such a big boost.
Yeah, because each player gets a commander which everybody can see, and when you use your commander either once or twice after they're used up, you replace it with another one. And you can also, like, if you really want to at the beginning of your turn in this command/technology buy action, you can instead discard your commander and replace it. Joe did that a lot, but unfortunately he got really a lot of shit commanders, honestly, for him. They, like, a lot of them were like, this is situationally good, or this could be good, not for Joe, that kind of thing. So it's like, okay. So there's a lot of interesting to it, and it was just unfortunate. I do feel like I got a really good start. I was like, well...
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think it was your start that really made you win it, though. It helped a lot, because we were definitely playing catch-up the entire time. But, you know, I got pretty close. I wasn't that... I was like 20 points behind you at the end. I think the bigger thing for me is just that I didn't have very good routes. Sorry, I should clarify. My routes didn't require very long trains, which is why in the end I think you got so much more, because you had very long trains.
Yeah. I have
very long ship routes. Yeah.
I think it was a good start and a lot of tiny cuts after that kind of led to that spot. Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Anybody else do anything tabletop related this week?
I mean, like, if you count something like maybe tangentially related to tabletop, yeah, but I don't know if I should just be like, yeah, I finished a novel that's related to tabletop. So it's a little bit of a step.
It kind of does, but yeah. But it's
Man,
like,
I'll tell you. One, it's a 40k novel. They're usually pretty good. This book, really good. However, I left the book even more confused on this character than when I started. Good God. This is like gaslight the character. I'll just tell you how it starts. Like the first part of the book is "My name is Alfarius. This is a lie," and then the book ends with "My name is Alfarius. This was also a lie."
wow. The unreliable narrator to the extreme.
It really is just like this guy's the most unreliable narrator. Very good book though. A little confusing.
Still sounds fun.
I mean, the Primark books are usually pretty good for good old 40k.
Well, I guess that leaves us to just ending for today then. That sounds like a good place to end with some 40k books and what we did our week. Momo, do you have anything to shout out?
Yeah, not really. I don't really do a whole lot these days.
Yeah. Worm, anything you got on your end?
Yeah, DiamondWyrm, twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm, at DiamondWyrm on Twitter. I'll probably be working on Tantous' map more tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think it did.
I think you didn't do the slash before the shout out.
Oh. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It worked. I'm tired. Hi, Dracovin. Thank you to my two co-hosts for joining me today. Check me out in the week. More gaming, more tabletop, TTRPG in the works, as we've kind of talked about. We'll be back next week on Saturday for more discussing tabletop. I will be. Some of these people will be too. I don't know if there's anything else to shout out. I'm just going to leave it at that. Check out my social media for any updates with that and actual published schedules when I put them up. That's Discord, Twitter/X, Blue Sky, and etc. So, okay, everybody. I'm going to say bye because I am very tired. And, it was a long day, and definitely it's the end of this session of stuff. And bye, everybody. Okay, bye.